Welcome to the Sooners 360 Recruiting Podcast, a podcast for OU recruiting fans by Sooners 360. Each week, we catch you up on the latest in OU recruiting news and provide opinions and evaluations on all things football recruiting. I'm Chris Mason, lead recruiting analyst for Sooners 360. This podcast is now sponsored by Sooners 360 on Patreon. To support this podcast, please go to patreon.com/Sooners360817 and click subscribe. It's only $2 a month. There's also a free trial option so you can see how you like it. That link will also be in the show notes, both on YouTube and on the podcasts. Also, this podcast is now part of the Believe podcast family. Every team, every topic, everywhere. Also, I'm appearing with the Horns Down podcast with Chris Griffin and the Hall of Fame podcast with Jason Watkins. We're doing OU previews on Thursday night. I'm recording this Wednesday night. We're also doing post games on Saturday or Sunday morning, depending upon when the game is. And Chris Griffin and I are also doing a recruiting Q&A on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Central, where you can ask me any questions you want as part of the YouTube live stream. So to get access to all of this content, the easiest way to do it is subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go to YouTube, just type in Sooners 360 in the search box, and you'll get the Sooners 360 logo, the wagon wheel logo that you know. And you can click there, and click subscribe. You'll be notified of podcasts being uploaded and live stream events. And you'll have access to all of that content. You'll see the videos, but you also can click the live tab. If you can't attend a Q&A, you can click the live link, and you can look at replays of the live streams. So this is episode 142, Mystery, Verbal, and Momentum Builds. So let's just get something out of the way first. It's 11:20 Eastern time on Wednesday, October 8th. That's the exact time I'm recording. And Texas still completely sucks. All right, so OU's got a mystery verbal. And I don't think this mystery is going to linger too long, but I needed to get this recorded tonight because I'm doing our Texas pregame podcast tomorrow night with, as I mentioned, with Jason Watkins and Chris Griffin. So I need to get this in tonight. Can't wait any longer. Was hoping that the player would go public, but they have not. So we're waiting on this verbal commitment. You've seen the post by OU Stacy Ford, who seems to be sort of the new, we just got a verbal commitment and we're making the public, we're posting something on Twitter to let everyone know. Stacy seems to be taking the lead on that. And when the verbal commitment is announced, the official OU football channel will do a boomer. We'll just announce boomer and do we'll see one of the Roughnecks shooting a shotgun. So, and we also got the from Rivals, I guess you just call him from Rivals instead of On3 at this point. Hayes Forsett posted something where he posted the pony emoji, and then he posted the GIF of Brent from the plane that was bringing him to Norman, where he's doing kind of the punch out thing. So that's what he always does. So basically, what that means is that someone's committed to the OU staff. That's the Stacy Ford part. And a prospect has requested that Forsett create a graphic for them for their public announcement. Now, in theory, this could be several prospects from 2026 or 2027. Several sites have made it clear what year it is. I'm not going to poach that content, but I will give you a couple of clues as to who it is not. So it's not Milan Paris. We're going to talk about him coming up, but it's not him. It's not Daniel McMorris. He's visiting Tech this weekend, I believe, before visiting OU officially on 10/25 for the Ole Miss game. And then he's going public on Halloween, 10/31. I still see this trending OU's way, but he's going to Tech, so we'll just have to see. So the other big topic out, so that's basically where it is. We'll go more in depth on this verbal once it's public. I'm not going to ruin a kid's weekend and throw out a bunch of names and throw out like a hint of a name. But the kid, let's let the kid have his fun. OU's picking up another member of what it looks like to be the 2026 class. That's what I'll leave it at that. 2027 QB update. Still no update. This is a strange situation. I'd anticipated 2 or 3 offers going out. Someone along the lines of Malachi Ziegler, maybe Teddy Gerard, the Notre Dame verbal. Ziegler's not verbal anywhere yet, but Smooth's looking like the location. Kavion Bryant is about to announce that's going to be Texas or Texas Tech. So he's not an option. If I didn't know better, and I got nothing to back this up, it's almost like OU is trying to see if they can get back with Peyton Houston. That is a complete swag, scientific, wild-ass guess. But the lack of action with other prospects doesn't leave me with much more to go on. It just could be that OU's deciding to wait until they've got full junior film and make offers in December. That's a perfectly, they've got a season to work through. They got Bo Bentley for 2026. They're just going to let things play. They're just going to wait until they've got full senior film and then make some decisions about where they're stack ranking guys. And perhaps there's a Bo Bentley guy for 2027 that they're just waiting to get junior film on. Let me correct myself. Before they make an offer. Because, this time last year, Bo Bentley really wasn't a name that was connected to OU or a big name that OU recruiting fans like myself were really tracking. It wasn't until the Navy game where he played in as a junior where he kind of blew up. So we'll see. But there's just no updates here. It's very strange. I got no names. So 2028 QB recruiting. I did an interview a couple of weeks ago with Nash Henry from Norman North. That was right as he had just played 1 or 2 games for Norman North. He's now played several more. His mid-year highlights, 5-game highlights, I believe, are up on Huddle. They're very good. He's every bit 6'3 and a half, 195 pounds. The interview is on Sooners 360 on YouTube if you want to go look at it. But Nash, he's putting up some really good film. When you watch his highlight reel, that looks like a QB that multiple Power 4 teams are probably going to offer. I don't know where OU is with Nash, but he's got a great arm. He's got size. He's a really good athlete. He's not running the ball too much because he's just distributing. He has, he has several players on his high school team that are P4 prospects. Ben Kohler and James, the wide receiver, going to Washington. So he's distributing the ball. He's doing what he needs to do. But his stats are looking good. We'll see. He's got some tough games coming up with some teams from the eastern part of the state. So we'll see. But he might be a 2028 QB to watch. He threw at OU summer camp along with Peyton Houston. And Bo Bentley. So he's definitely someone he's a name to file away. So for 2028 and more 2028 offers are going out. So we'll see what OU wants to do QB wise there. He's been to several OU home games already. He's a prospect to watch. So definitely look at his Huddle film if you haven't. It's an interesting it's interesting footage. The kid has an arm, and he's very, very. It's just a suddenness to his motion. He sets up quickly and gets rid of the ball quickly. So this is his first year starting on varsity because Norman North had a senior last year. So he's a player perhaps to track for 2028. Maybe. We'll see. With that said, what's left for 2026? So let's just kind of go down position by position. Quarterback, OU's done. They got Bo Bentley. No more needed. We know two quarterbacks in this class doesn't work. Jaden O'Neal's at Mustang. Hopefully he's going to have a good year and have a good career at FSU. Running back. So I keep thinking a second running back makes too much sense in this class, especially if you project some portal action from the underclassmen OU running back room. I'm not going to name names. You guys know who we're talking about. And one name makes way too much sense. It's Jonathan Hatton, the San Antonio running back, committed to A&M. A&M already has KJ Edwards already. Obviously, a two running back class is fine, but those guys are both alphas in the class. So I would reach out to Jonathan Hatton. I just watched his first 5-game highlights on Huddle. They're pretty damn impressive. And to quote one of my favorite John Malkovich roles, to quote Teddy KGB from Rounders, pay that man his money, because that's what it came down to. He wanted to be a Sooner. A&M was just offering him more. I think there's a gap here where OU needs to get back into this action. And maybe they will, or maybe they're just waiting till the end of the year and try and strike before signing day, not give A&M too much chance to respond. I don't know. Or maybe not going to do anything at all. But, he's wearing number 28. He's a big power back with speed. He verbaled to OU once. He almost reverbaled to OU. I just think there's got to be a way to make this deal work. Wide receiver. Well, okay, so we've got one guy in play, Milan Paris, and I'm going to talk about him a little bit later. And then the other two names getting thrown around message boards and on podcasts are Jaden Petit from Florida, who's off to a torrid year, looks really good on his highlight reel. And he's verbaled to a bad Wisconsin team who may not win another game. Luke Fickell will have to, I don't know how he survives. That hot seat is getting hotter and hotter. It's not working. It's a bad fit. It just doesn't look like it's going to work. So we'll see if Wisco pulls the plug on that, but it just doesn't look like it's working. And then obviously Davion Gross from Frisco Lone Star, verbal to UF. Obviously, as long as Billy Napier is staying in that job, Gross is going to be a Gator. But Florida's schedule is as bad as OU's, and if they start picking up any more losses, I know he saved his job last year with a run, but that was later when they had some easier games, not too much easier, but that was later in the year. This is right now. They beat Texas, which I predicted, on our podcast last week. But I think everybody saw that kind of coming because of the fact that Texas has just never been on the road at a place like the Swamp. In the Big 12 play, they never went on the road to any really hostile environments like that. And, and Arch has not shown himself to be and that team to really be able to handle road games, at least not so far. So we'll see if Napier can really pull this off, but he's got big games coming up. It's a terrible schedule. He still has FSU. He still has Georgia. I think he still has Tennessee. I'm not sure about that. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. I'm pretty sure he does. So there's a possibility for 3 more losses and for them to be 6-6 or even 5-7. It was a big win, but it doesn't completely resolve their issues. They could get hot, but they've got some tough games coming up. So that's like one guy in play and 2 guys to watch who may decommit. Will you take all 3? No. So Milan kind of has the edge on one position, and then I think OU would only take one other guy, and I think they would probably wait and see how the Gross situation resolves itself. So we'll see. O-line. OU only has 2 offensive line verbal commitments, Noah Best and Deacon Schmidt. OU's got McMorris in play. I think they lead there. The tackle from Norman North, Daniel McMorris. He's most likely a left tackle. You'll need some time to add weight, but the comp I like to use is Russell Okung, the All-American tackle from OSU. When OSU signed him, he was like a 6'5", 250-pound tight end. Turned into an All-American type tackle, had a very good NFL career, a number of years in the NFL. So that's kind of that's the sky high potential on McMorris. So if they were to pick up McMorris, that would give them two tackles. Deacon Schmidt is a right tackle, could be a right guard or a left guard, but I think he's at a right tackle. You'd have McMorris at left tackle. Noah Best is likely a center for the Sooners, I think, although he could easily play either guard slot. He's that talented. He's 6'4", nearly 6'5", 310 pounds. He's what OU wants, I think, in the center position moving forward. That kind of guy. Very physical, athletic, with reach, with a little length to him, very similar to Jake Makala. So that would leave OU needing another interior player. I'm going to give you two options here. OU's Twitter follows show they've got a couple other guys that they're tracking, but there's been no action on them yet. So these two guys have OU offers. So the first one is Maxwell Robinson, a name I talked about for a while. He's from Kansas, 6'4", 285 pounds, 290 pounds. He could easily carry 310, 315. And he could also probably be a center as well. So he has that kind of right guard, right tackle, center kind of flexibility. So that would make a lot of sense. He hasn't taken any official visits, and he didn't do any camp work over the summer because he was apparently working on a grade situation. Now, I don't know his grades. I'm not talking to Maxwell. I'm not throwing him under the bus for his academic work, but I'm just reporting what the rumors are. So if his coursework is in shape, I could see OU making a play here. He visited OU several times already. He camped at OU in 2024. He was very impressive at that camp. He'd already earned an offer beforehand, but he looked really good there. So there's some connections OU has. I could see this working for OU and OU bringing him in. The other name, and again, this was mentioned on the Sooner Scoop podcast, so I don't want to pretend that I haven't heard that. I would have probably come up with this name regardless, but it was mentioned on the Sooner Scoop podcast, so I just need to be transparent about that. It's Desmond Green from South Carolina, the big offensive guard who's verbal to UF. Just like Davion Gross, if Napier is fired, does he open things back up? Would OU make a run at him? He would be a natural big offensive guard like Darius Afalava. Big guys, you probably not want to knock some of that bad weight off and have him play closer to 320, 330. But he's a big guy. He can carry that weight and move just like Afalava. So those are two names to think about. But OU desperately needs to add a fourth guy. They got a good job with 2027. Good start there with three guys verbal. Several guys also targeted. There's a bunch of names targeted for OU for 2027. But they need to get four guys in for 2026. Ideally 5. If you could add Robinson and Green, I would do that. If the potential was there. Linebacker, we're waiting on Jacob Curry. I think I'm not sure if his next official visit is to Ohio State, and if we need to, we're not quite ready for that. So not sure about that, but OU definitely recruiting him, definitely pushing for him. He's a fantastic looking will linebacker. Would love that. If you're asking like wish fulfillment, I'd love OU to add another Mike linebacker prospect. Ja'Cory Smith, Will, Jacoby Curry, Will, Bojandro, Mike. But Bo hasn't played this year, and Bo was injured last year. I'll be honest, that's a little bit of a, somebody sent me that information, and that asked me what I thought about that. That's a little bit of a red flag there. I would be much happier if we had 5 games of footage of him and he looks awesome and maybe getting reevaluated or re-ranked, but we don't have that. So I wish there was let's just say I would love there to be another Mike linebacker that OU really wants come available that OU could snag late. Adam Balagon Ali, for instance, the guy from Florida, verbal to Auburn. Maybe if Auburn, we'll see. Auburn's playing UGA this weekend. If they play Jackson Arnold and don't go with Deuce McKnight, they're going to lose that football game some way, somehow. And then they got another tough road game. We'll see if Hugh Freeze can survive that. But, Billy Napier and Hugh Freeze potentially losing their positions. Yeah, it could be a free-for-all in November and December if that happens. So we'll see. Defensive end, defensive line. Sorry, just gonna fumble there a little bit. I don't foresee anyone right now. It would have to be an elite guy for OU to add numbers at either spot. They didn't re-engage with Taj Overton. He went to Missouri. Brian Harris, James Carrington, and Teron Richardson is a very solid group at defensive tackle. They're all having good senior years, it appears. Defensive end, Jake Krull, Daniel Norman, and Matthew Nelson. You've got your edge guys there. So we'll see. It would have to be, I think, an elite guy for OU to add more numbers there. Somebody could pop, but I don't think so. Cornerback, same thing. I don't see OU making any moves there. Derek Johnson's having a good year. We'll get to that in a second. OU's loaded at cornerback for 2027. They signed 3 guys in 2025. That's looking like a good move. They've got a great group of guys for 2027. They've already got a vertical from Malik McCrary. Montre Jackson, in recent interview with 247, was putting OU in his top 2, almost sounding like really it was just a top 1 with Oklahoma. And then you've got the brother cornerbacks to track, Trenton Blaylock and Darius Johnson. So, and other guys like Jerry Outhouse, who is talking about OU, probably OU's in his top 3 or 4, the Dallas area prospect. So OU's got cornerbacks. And then they got a couple of Cali guys coming in for visits, top guys in 2027. We'll see if those come to follow through. And then you had the top cornerback in the country, Joshua Dobson, who I talked about last week, was in town for the Michigan game, and he's talking about OU's in his top 12 and OU's around there. So I don't see any way OU adds another cornerback for 2026. Safety, I'd like to see OU add a true safety for 2026. Nico Jandro is a cheetah. I don't think he's a true safety. He's a good fit at cheetah, and he can play cheetah for OU. So that niche fit works. But I'd like to see OU add a true safety. Again, back to UF. UF and OU seem to have fought for several players this year. Caden Hall, the big safety, still has an official visit to use with the Sooners. If something happens to Napier, I would love OU. He just visited FSU. I'd love to get Hall to Norman. Maybe he's not going to lead the state of Florida, but I'd love to see OU getting him to Norman. I'd really love to see OU having a chance to flip Jordan Deck from Frisco Lone Star off Michigan. I just don't see that happening, but maybe it could. But that's the guy. If you're asking me who's the number 1 safety target I would like OU to flip, it's Jordan Deck. They had a great relationship with Deck before their season kind of collapsed last year. He was did a great job at OU's 2024 summer camp. They lost momentum with him. He chose Baylor. Then he flipped to Michigan. OU's just never been able to seem to get any momentum back there. Love to see if he could come up for a game and maybe OU could push things, but I don't foresee that happening. But someone like Jordan Deck is who I'd love to add. Just one guy at safety. That's who I would like to add. Overall, OU's got really good momentum right now, as you can tell from all the verbal commitments occurring. It'll only increase if OU wins more games. So you could see a surprise or 2 in Norman for the Missouri game or the LSU game. But as I said, at most positions, I think we're talking an elite kid like Hatton, Gross, a linebacker who I can't think of, and a defensive lineman I can't think of, and maybe a safety I can't think of. But otherwise, I think we're tracking the names that I think that make the most sense, which are McMorris, Jacob Curry, and now Milan Paris. So I buried this enough. So let's talk about Milan Paris. So he's from the Akron area in Ohio. He's 6'5", 200 pounds. Fantastic looking senior film. He officially visited for the Kent State game, and 2 days later, he officially decommitted from Iowa State. It's a tough blow for the Cyclones. They did a great evaluation and a good recruiting job, and they've been putting big receivers in the NFL. But I think it was the combined weight of Oregon, Miami, and OU that sunk this deal. If it had been just the Sooners, I think maybe Iowa State could have bobbed and weaved and kept it, but Oregon and Miami coming over the top just kind of ended that. He's visiting Oregon this weekend, and a Miami visit should happen right after. I think OU could win this recruiting battle. I love his film. He'd be an excellent addition to the wide receiver recruiting room, but it's just too soon to tell. Oregon and Miami obviously have NIL packages that are considerable these days, even with the guardrails that are supposed to be in place. So we'll see what happens there, but he's a big-time potential. I'd love for OU to see if they could add him. Again, this was mentioned on one of the Sooner Scoop videos posted by Josh. I hadn't taken a look at this, so I apologize, but Josh is completely right. So the mid-year, if you're going to watch one mid-year film and go to Huddle and watch it, watch Brian Harris's mid-year film. His highlights are absurd. Watching these highlights, I have no idea why Harris is not a top 100, top 150 player nationally. His size, length, athleticism, burst, and physicality are elite looking. His film is the only recent comp I have. It looks like David Stone when he was at IMG. He's playing defensive end. He plays defensive tackle, just like David Stone did at IMG. And he's burst, and he's just flying through the line. You say, well, these guys aren't blocking him. They don't have a chance. He's just, his get off at defensive end, and he's a huge looking defensive end. There's some poor offensive tackle trying to block him, and he just barrels over him. But inside, he's blowing up running backs, tackles for loss. He's meeting QBs and running backs in the backfield, just constantly there. I've always been a big fan of him, you know that. But this is even better than I had anticipated. I was watching it going, it's borderline 5-star kind of looking film. I'll just say that. And maybe I'm going over the top because I like him and he's an OU guy. So maybe I'm being a homer there. I'm owning that. Maybe it's that my bias is there. But the film's just absurdly good. Like, I always thought he was underrated. I always thought that there was a ceiling there, but he's just ragdolling guys and blowing through offensive lines. It's as impressive a 5-game senior film as I've watched in a long time. All right, we're ending the podcast, and we always end the podcast with new offers. So OU made 2 2028 offers. The first one was defensive end Jelani George. He's 6'5", 245 pounds, from Arizona, Phoenix area. 247 has him, and I'm going to have, for 2028, I'm going to have to use mostly 247 rankings because I don't think On3 Rivals really has done theirs yet. So 247 has, probably ridiculously early for that, but they've done them. He's the number 2 player in the country, and his film at defensive end is very impressive. Is it as good as Marcus Fahakutu, who started the OU summer camp in 2024? It's close. They're very close, and Fahakutu's number 3 player in the nation. So OU still trying to stay involved in that recruiting with Fahakutu. Not sure if that's gonna stick. I think I'm saying that name correctly. Again, it's been a while since I've said that. Let me look it up real quick so I'm not making the same mistake as I did before with some other guys. Player rankings. And let me jump to 2028. Yeah, it's Marcus Faka, Fakatu, Fakatu. I don't know how you say that. That's my best pronunciation without getting an SEC violation. But Marcus is a great kid, having a fantastic sophomore campaign. Looks fantastic. So George is right ahead of him in the country and probably at defensive end, D line. So usually, sometimes I think, well, he's just taking a flyer here. But I have a source telling me that George is very excited about this offer, very interested in the Sooners, and OU's D-line attack squad this year is making waves with 27 and 28 prospects. Guys are noticing what OU's doing. They're noticing all the attention. They're noticing all the production. It's not going unnoticed by elite prospects, by five-star guys. So I know Jalen Brewster verbal to Texas Tech, as I predicted, but I'd imagine OU will continue pushing those buttons for the 2027 elite defensive tackle. But back to 2028, George, again, really liked hearing from OU, very interested. Wouldn't shock me if he's not on campus for an unofficial visit, either for a game this fall or in the spring. We'll see. Then OU offered an in-state player. He is unrated right now, I believe. His name is Connor Arendt. That's Connor with two N's. And I've been trying to I was able to watch his first games of his sophomore year. And he's very, very good. He's from Bixby, so he's on part of that dominant Bixby football team that is. I thought he was with Bixby. It says no, it is Bixby. Sorry, I think he moved from Jenks to Bixby. I think he's 6'6", 225. His first couple of games of his sophomore year on Huddle, the footage is very good. It's mostly at tight end, where he is a punishing blocker and an excellent receiver. He could easily be a top 100, top 150 guy at tight end, depending on how things shake out. He's got a long frame, very athletic. Could he be 6'6", 245? Easy. So it could be another great year in state for tight ends in 2028 as well. 2026 has Titus Hawk and Ben Kolar, both tight ends OU would love to have. So OU's offered Arendt. He's listed as a defensive end too, but most of his footage is at tight end. So we'll see how that shakes out. But OU hasn't offered him yet, but it could also offer Ricky Brady's kid. Ricky Brady, the OU tight end in the 1990s, played on some terrible Gibbs teams. Really, had an NFL career. Big kid, just really would have. He never could hit his ceiling because of the OU teams he was really on. His son, Breck Brady, is also in the 2028 class. I've mentioned him before. I think OU potentially could offer him, and he's a tight end too at 6'5", 245 already. And again, he could easily probably add another 20 pounds to his frame and just be a monster at 6'5", 265 at tight end. That's if he doesn't outgrow it into defensive tackle or offensive tackle. But if OU was to offer Breck Brady, you'd have another in-state class of tight ends for Joe John Finley to recruit and hopefully sign. So those are the two new offers. 2028 is looking like it will be another good class in-state. OU's already made several offers for 2028. Damian Nero Compton, the athlete, a teammate of Xavier Okafualize, the OU wide receiver. He plays athlete. He plays quarterback, but he's a cornerback wide receiver, maybe even for OU in the future. OU's offered David Thomas, the slot receiver prospect from Stillwater, and now they've offered Connor Arendt. So, and I think they have an offer to the big a Union defensive tackle whose name escapes me right now. They've also offered him. So OU's got about 5 offers for 2028 already out there. So that's pretty impressive for an in-state group this early. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I think OU will offer Brady at some point. It's way too much potential. His improvement from his freshman film to his sophomore film is dramatic. So that's all the information I got for you right now. Hopefully by next week, we're enjoying a win over Texas, and we're talking about the new verbal commitment, and maybe we have some news on some other stuff as well. So thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. If you listen to this on an audio platform, iTunes, Spotify, whatever, please subscribe. If you're on YouTube, watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. It's the way YouTube pushes my content and tracks my content. You hear everybody from Josh Pate, JD Pickle, the Crane guys, their excellent podcast, Cover 3. Everybody's begging you to subscribe. This is why. I'm a small podcast. If you guys could subscribe to my channel, it helps greatly. Finally, please visit patreon.com/Sooners360817 to subscribe. I just posted the first 2027 Sooner class prediction on Patreon. If you want to know who I think at this point could be part of that class, you got to go to Patreon and look at it. So that Patreon channel provides revenue to keep this podcast free. So please consider signing up, give it a trial. It's part of what helps me keep this podcast behind, at some point, it keeps it free. I'll just say it that way. This keeps that Patreon site keeps this free. So if you enjoy this podcast, consider the Patreon site, please. Thank you very much. We'll be back next week with another podcast.